This is the solution video for section 4.1, problem number 7. So the directions for 6 and 7 say find the critical numbers of each function. All right, so you're given f of x equals x squared times the cube root of 2x minus 5. All right, so critical numbers. All right, so remember, critical numbers are x values in the domain of f for which f prime of x equals 0 or undefined. So first of all, domain of f. What is the domain of f? Well, what's the domain of x squared? Well, I can plug any number into x squared, right? And what's the domain for the cube root of 2x minus 5? Well, cube root has a domain of all real numbers. And so the domain here is all real numbers. So basically, we want to know when f prime is equal to 0 or undefined. There is no domain restriction from the original function. All right. So f prime. All right, so I want to use the product rule. So x squared times. All right, cube root of 2x minus 5. Remember, I'm going to rewrite that as 2x minus 5 to the 1/3 power, right? So I get the derivative of that would be 1/3 times 2x minus 5 to the negative 2/3 times the derivative of 2x minus 5, which is 2. And then product rule plus the 2x minus 5 to the 1/3 times the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. All right, so now I want to clean this up and simplify in order to set it equal to 0 and solve. All right, so first of all, I've got 1/3 and 2, so I actually have a 2/3. And then I've got the x squared, and then I've got the 2x minus 5 to the negative 2/3. I'm going to leave it as is right now. Plus, and then I'm going to put the 2x in front and 2x minus 5 to the 1/3 power. So now I want to set this equal to 0 and solve. So how do I do that? Well, I've got two terms. I've got one thing added to another, and so we want to factor. All right, so remember, you have seen problems like this before back in pre-calc where we want to factor out the lower power. So I could factor out a 2, so I can take that out, right? This has 2/3 and this has 2. All right, and then I've got x squared and I've got x, so I'm going to factor out the x to the first. And then I've got a 2x minus 5 to the negative 2/3 and a 2x minus 5 to the 1/3. So you'll recall you want to factor out the lower power. So negative 2/3 is lower than 1/3, so I'm factoring out negative 2/3. Sorry, negative 2/3. All right, so now what does that leave me with? Well, I took out a 2 from 2/3, so I have 1/3. And then I have an x, right? And I took out the 2x minus 5 to the negative 2/3, so nothing else in the first term. Then I have plus. I took out the 2x, so now I have 2x minus 5 to the what power? All right, so what power is here? Well, remember, if I were to distribute this back, the negative 2/3 would be added to whatever power is here. So there's actually a first power here because negative 2/3 plus 1 is 1/3. So this is the correct factored version. So now I have 1, 2, 3 factors multiplied together to equal 0. So what must be true? Either the first thing equals 0, which means x equals 0, or the second thing, 2x minus 5 to the negative 2/3 equals 0, which actually can't be true, and I'll explain that in a minute, or the last thing, 1/3 x plus 2x minus 5 equals 0. Now, that's just a linear equation, so that one is easy to solve. All right, now, going back here, 2x minus 5 to the negative 2/3. Why can that not equal 0? Well, remember, what does this really mean? It really means 1 over the cube root of the quantity 2x minus 5 squared. That cannot equal 0 because 1 divided by 0, well, is never going to equal 0. That would be undefined. But remember, we do want to know when the derivative is undefined because that would also be a critical number. All right, and so we do want to solve this. So obviously 1 can't equal 0, but this thing would be undefined. So you want to write yourself a little note, okay? If cube root of 2x minus 5 quantity squared equals 0, right, what is true, then f prime is undefined. So you want to write yourself that note. So now I want to solve this. Cube root of 2x minus 5 squared equals 0. So how do I get rid of a cube root? I cube each side. So what is 0 cubed? Well, that's just 0. So 2x minus 5 quantity squared. How do I get rid of a square? Or sorry, how do I get rid of a square? I square root. So what's the square root of 0? Of course, that's just 0. So 2x minus 5 equals 0. So we want to add 5 and divide by 2. So x is equal to 5 halves. So x equals 5 halves is a critical number because, like we said, f prime is undefined. All right, and then lastly here, 1/3 plus 2. Remember, 2 is like 6/3, so 1/3 plus 6/3 is 7/3. X minus 5 equals 0. So I'm going to add 5 and divide by 7/3. So x equals 5 over 7/3. But if I'm dividing by 7/3, that's the same as saying 5 times what? The reciprocal of 7/3. So 3/7. So 15/7 is the third critical number. So x equals 0, x equals 5 halves, and x equals 15/7.